Hello, Shadowcat back, and I have another short kind of commentary video to do. And some of you may ask, I run a gaming channel. I play all kinds of games on here. Gaming is pretty much the only thing on here except for these oddball videos. Why, oh why, am I making these videos on this channel? Well, I have an answer for that, and that's the answer I want to get into today. So, for starters, I have a couple of other videos that I'm kicking around right now that I wanted to do. I have a video on protests that I wanted to do, especially given a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, like the multiple convoys around the world that have been going on, going on, whatever. The multiple convoys and protests against vaccinations and things like that. There's protests in the United States over abortion rights and things of that nature. Protests all over the place. And I was going to do that video, but I'm holding off on that one. I have another video as well in the works on a couple of very important biblical passages. Specifically, two from the book of Matthew. One of them being the golden rule, and the other one being turn the other cheek. Because I want to try and break down what they mean, what their intentions were, and how, honestly, I think they're being abused today. So that's another video that's coming up. But at the bottom of this, the real question is, why? When I make those videos, and I will make them, why should you care? Why should anyone care what I have to say about these things? If you're coming here for RimWorld, or Star Trek Online, or Guild Wars, or if you're really into Borderlands right now for Humble February, which, several of you are really into Borderlands, and that's great. Enjoy it. Why should you even care about these little videos I do on the weekend? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. Because today I'm talking about politics. Not a political subject, not a political event. Politics as a whole. And when I mention politics, politics is at twice. It is one of those things that most people either roll their eyes at or they just kind of tune it out. Once you bring up something political, a lot of people out there just say, okay, I'm done, I'm not listening anymore, I don't care. Also, politics is one of the verboten subjects. Remember, you never bring up religion or politics in polite conversation. And why is that? Well, because when you bring in religion and politics into a polite conversation, the conversation quickly becomes not polite anymore. Not always, but it happens a lot, which is why they say you never do it. And there's 2 points that I want to make. The first is, you should not care about politics. Okay? I'm going to come right out and say, you should not care about it. Immediately following that, however, I'm going to tell you why you must. Now, I want to start off with the easy one and say why you should not care at all about politics. And I'm going to make this really easy, because you already agree with me. Whether you realize it or not, you already agree with me. Think about your day. I'm going to guess that most people that are listening to my voice on YouTube or on BitChute or on Rumble or wherever you're listening to me, most of you probably work a wage job. Maybe your wage, hourly, maybe your salary, maybe you work blue collar, white collar, whatever. You work a wage job, you go to work, do your work, come home, you relax with me, which makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and you go to sleep and you get up and you do it again the next day. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're a contractor and you get to make your own hours and you work on job sites and do whatever you want to. Maybe you're a farmer and your hours are from, before dawn to after dusk. Whatever you're doing, that's your day, okay? You wake up, You go to work, you do your things, you then listen to me because everyone listens to me, and then you go to bed again. Where do politics fit in there? At what point in your day do you even have the time to generate the energy to care about politics? That's why I say you really should not. Because, well, why should you? I mean, I like to say, when you ask a why question, and you can't find an answer, like when something happens, somebody does a thing, like somebody drives a car through a building, people will always ask, well, why did they do it? Were they sending a message? Was it a medical issue? Whatever. And when they've ruled out everything, they say, well, there was no message and they were perfectly fine before the incident. I think eventually you have to ask ask the question, why not? Because maybe people just do it because they want to. This is kind of the opposite, where you don't care about politics, and I'm asking why you even should. Because from your day-to-day life, it doesn't really matter. And that's the long and short of it. Yeah, simple video. We're done, right? Yep. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, and take care. No, we're not done yet. The fact is that on a daily basis, you don't have to care about any of this stuff. Most of it doesn't affect you at all. But that leads me into the second point. Why you need to. And this one, I find there's a lot of arguments. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to say, you need to care about this issue because of blah, blah, blah. And they're going to give you reasons, and they're going to make arguments. They'll make appeals to authority. They'll make emotional arguments. They may have graphs and data, but they're going to try and make you care about something. Okay, and that's fine, because that's kind of how the world works. If I wanted to convince you that we should have nachos, well, I'm going to have to present a case for that. Same thing with if you want to make pot legal. You're going to have to make a case for it. Specific issues are not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about politics in general as a whole and why you need to care about it. Because from your day-to-day life, it doesn't generally affect you. But if I might make an analogy, politics and the people behind politics, the politicians, are bullies. Now hold on. I have an explanation for this, and I promise once I get to the end of it, it'll all make sense. I'm going to guess that most people listening to what I'm saying have been through school, public school, probably. And most of you, whether you were on the giving or receiving end, probably know about bullying. I mean, more than likely you probably were the bully, because the people who were the bullies are definitely not listening to me right now. So everyone knows about bullying. And the thing about bullying is it's trying to make a person perform an action, or it's trying to just torment them for the sheer enjoyment of doing so, or the selfish gain they get from it. I mean, maybe a bully pushes you down the stairs because they want your lunch money. Maybe they push you down the stairs because they just find it hilarious. Either way, they're doing it for themselves. And in politics, even though a lot of politicians will try to convince you that they're doing it for your own good, well, the truth is that a politician who goes into office is supposed to be acting according to what their constituents want. But at the end of the day, whatever they got voted in for, if that is actually what their constituents wanted, if they don't get it, they're voted out. Which means that they have a reason, a personal, selfish reason, to do whatever they can to stay in power. Whether that is doing what they were told, or whether that is lying, cheating, stealing, and killing. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows politics is a dirty game. And that's why I want to compare politicians to bullies. Because when it comes to bullies, what were you told? You were told, oh, don't worry about them, it's just a phase. They'll get over it and they'll leave you alone. When did that ever work? You leave the bully alone, and he continues to bully you. We all know that. They say, just be nice to him. Every bully just wants a friend. So you try being kind to the bully, and what does he do? He takes full advantage of it, and he bullies you harder. They say, don't fight back. You're only going to make it worse. Okay, well, that is also kind of right, because if you try to fight back and lose, then it's absolutely going to get worse. But the point is, when it comes to bullies, they have the ability to use force to get you to do pretty much anything they want because they have force. And so, what are your options? If you go and tell an adult, you tell a teacher, a parent, whatever, what you're essentially doing is saying, look, I do not have the force to stop this. So here is somebody who is bigger, older, smarter, and stronger than me, and I want them to stop you. Okay, well, that makes sense. If you can't stop it, find somebody who can. Well, while that might work for some bullies, it kind of doesn't work with the government, because the government is a bully. Unfortunately, the government is also a bully for whom we have given the complete monopoly on violence to. I mean, if you have a bully, you can turn around and punch them in the face, and at the worst, you get detention, maybe get suspended from school for a while, whatever. Or maybe in some more sane parts of the world, nothing happens because you say, look, they were picking on me. I did what I had to do. But of course, we don't live in sane times anymore. But when it comes to the government doing it, well, can't really do anything about that. If they want to come and bully you, they can. But that's why I say politics is necessary. While you may not like it, and you may not want it, and you may not care about it, the fact is that even if you go about your daily life and it doesn't affect you at all, that doesn't mean that there aren't things going on behind the scenes that may. Remember that I said that the politicians are like bullies. And what do bullies do? They go out and they look for new victims. Now, victims in this case may or may not be the right word, depending on what we're talking about, and a lot of that may be subjective. But the matter of the fact is, when it comes to politics, if you don't care, and if you do nothing about it, then by the time you do care, it's more than likely because it's too late. Most people don't care about politics because, going back to what I said before, where is it in your daily life? You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you get some sleep. At what point is there any kind of politics in that? For most people, there isn't. Until there is. Because eventually, if you don't stop it, if you don't pay attention, eventually it comes to you. You can't ignore it, and if you do ignore it, once it gets to you, it's already too late to really fight it off. And I will point to a lot of the COVID measures that we're under right now, because right now, if you look at a lot of the world, many places in the world, many states in the United States, many provinces in Canada, and many smaller countries around the world in, like, Europe, are rolling back all of their COVID measures. Now, when they're rolling them back, they're all giving different reasons for doing so. But the majority of them all agree to one degree, they all agree, one degree or another, that the COVID measures haven't really done what they wanted them to do, and the worst of it seems to be over by now anyway. Now, I say this because of that first part. A lot of them say that the COVID measures didn't really do what they wanted them to do anyway. I think it was the Johns Hopkins Institute that came out and said that a lot of the lockdown measures that we had, I think they said it prevented 0.02% of the deaths. I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I just remember seeing that and hearing a lot about it. But I can provide it right here if I can find it on the internet. Point is, there were people way back when this started that were saying this isn't going to work, and if we allow them to do this, it is going to intrude on every single facet of human life across the planet. It is going to affect your job. It is going to affect your home life. It is going to affect your ability to travel, not just internationally, but sometimes even in your own neighborhood. I'm looking at you, Australia, who said that people are not even allowed to go outside their house. You are not even allowed to go into your own front or backyard. Because if they spotted you, they would fine you. People were saying that these things will intrude upon every aspect of your life, and many people, many people, didn't care. They said, look, it's an international issue. It doesn't affect me. I'm just going to let people do what they need to do. And so they said, I'm not going to ask questions. I'm not going to do research. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to let the people in charge handle it, because that's what they're hired to do, okay? I pay taxes. My taxes pay them. Ergo, they're working for me, and that's what I'm paying them to do. And a lot of people didn't pay attention. And what happened? Well, they locked down houses. They locked down communities. They locked down cities. They closed schools. They shut down jobs. They did everything. And when that happened, a lot of people came out and said, now, wait a minute. I didn't want this. I didn't agree to this. I never wanted any part of this. I agreed. I just wanted you to handle it. But because they didn't pay attention, and they just said somebody else will handle it, this is what they got. And this is why I say you need to be involved in politics. Nobody wants to. Politics is ugly, it's divisive, it's nasty, and it requires a big investment in time. Right now, I have a lot of time to go through a lot of news and events and things that are going on like that. But for a person who's working 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, you ain't got time for that. You really don't. Unfortunately, because of the way our systems work in most of the Western world, there isn't really time. But that's why I said you need to do so, and not that you should. Because politics, unfortunately, is a bit like exercise. Nobody wants to do exercise. I know, some people out there say they want to exercise. I mean, there's actually people who enjoy going to the gym or going for a run on a crisp winter morning when it's only 3 degrees outside. And I don't care whether that's in Celsius or Fahrenheit, 3 is cold. But you need to. Whether or not you're miserable doing it, you have to. Why? Because if you don't, the consequences later will be worse. If you don't exercise, you will be out of shape. And if you're out of shape, then other bad things can happen. I know, because I am out of shape, and bad things happen. And you know who I have to blame for that? I have me to blame for that, because I know what I should be doing, and it's my fault for not doing so. And the same thing is true for politics. Nobody wants to go through this stuff. I mean, some people enjoy it. I'm kind of ambivalent. I'm a very curious person, and I like to learn things, and so I try to keep up on the current events because I always want to know what's new. But I can do that with anything. Why politics? Well, because if I miss out on the latest in, say, aerospace technology, then maybe I don't know about the latest rockets that are going into space. But if I don't keep up with current events in politics, then eventually those politics will come to me, and I will possibly not even be prepared for them, and I also possibly may not even be able to speak out against them. And sometimes that's all you can do. I mean, in most of the Western world, in the US, in Canada, in Britain, and several other places, there is a certain amount of freedom of speech, and you are allowed to at least, speak out against it. Maybe that does nothing, maybe it does something, but at least you tried. And that's the important part. If you don't pay attention to anything at all, then you lose the opportunity to even try until it's already on your doorstep and you can't do anything about it. So, much like exercise, you either keep up with it, or by the time you have to deal with it, it's going to be that much harder and that much more damaging in your life. And that's what brings me back to things like bullies. See, you can't prevent bullies in your life. Everyone's going to have one at some point. Maybe you have it in school, maybe you have it at a job somewhere. It's a fact of life. I mean, humans are animals. Animals have hierarchies, and everyone is going to be trying to get on top of someone. That sounded better in my head before I saw it. Anyway, moving on. The point is that when these things happen, there is a way to deal with the bully, and that is to nip that in the bud real fast. Like, the minute it happens. If somebody tries to rob you of your lunch money, you say no. And if they try to hurt you over it, you fight back. The same thing is true with politics. If they try to pass a bill that will restrict your rights in some way, like they say that there's going to be a new lockdown measure in place that says you can no longer travel more than 1,000 miles. You say, you know what, even though this isn't necessarily going to restrict me, the answer is no. Because they have no right to put that restriction on me. But then, if they come out and say, well, we're going to do it anyway, well, now you protest. And I have another video on protest coming out soon. But for the time being, that's when you do something about it. And as we're seeing right now with the many protests across the world, it does work. If you have a solid enough movement, and if you push back on it soon enough. If you wait and just say, well, I'm going to tolerate this for a while until I can no longer tolerate it, you give it the chance to become firmly entrenched, well, then you're going to be kind of SOL. So you have to pay attention. You have to know what's coming. And yes, it's not always pleasant. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's infuriating. But you don't have a choice. Nobody wants to keep up with all of this stuff, and we wish that we could just trust the people in charge to do everything that they're supposed to do. But the fact is, you can't. And you shouldn't. The fact of the matter is, you shouldn't necessarily trust anyone. Not completely and not implicitly. I mean, even if you have a plumber come over to your house to fix a pipe, would it not be prudent to check in every once in a while and see what they're doing? And if you have questions, you ask questions. You're not stopping them from working. You're not interfering with them. You're overseeing and supervising it because you care about the job being done and you care about your house and your family. The same is true for politics. These are the people who are supposed to be running your cities, your states, and your country. Why would you not oversee what they're doing any more than you would oversee a plumber who is fixing your pipes? And so that is why you need to. Now, I don't want to belabor the point on this one. Like I said, I was going to do a short video on why you should not need to care about politics, but why you absolutely do. And the sad part in both of those is that if you didn't need to care about it, most people wouldn't. Unfortunately, as soon as people stop caring about it and stop paying attention, that's when it gets bad, because people know they can get away with stuff. So it's a bit cyclical. I mean, not to steal the phrase from other people who are much smarter than I am, but as the saying goes, it's making its rounds around the internet. Strong men make good times make weak men make hard times, and hard times make strong men. So, because we didn't pay that much attention before, we're now reaping the benefits now. That does not mean, however, that it cannot be turned around. Get involved. Turn on the news. Not just one news channel, you're going to have to watch several of them. Because you can't trust any one news outlet anymore. You have to listen to all of them, find out what they actually agree on, and move on from there, because they're all going to be lying about something. That's what they do these days. Find out what they agree on, and that's probably the truth. Get involved in your local elections. Not necessarily just your state, but who's your mayor? Who's on the city council? Who's in charge of your local utilities? Those things affect you on a day-to-day basis more than everything on the state level. And by the time it gets to the state level, it's usually too far entrenched for you to do anything about anyway. A lot of it you can stop early, just by knowing who's in charge of your local district and what they're bringing to the table. So get involved locally. Just pay attention. Have conversations. Get to know your neighbors again. We don't even know our neighbors anymore. And your personal community has more control over your personal community than the mayor does. Know what's going on around you, and you can head off any problems before they become really big problems. That was the entire point of communities to begin with. That was the entire idea of neighborhoods. So, I'm going to leave it off there. That was the entire message I wanted to get across. I think I did so okay. Just make sure that even though it may be boring, it may be uncomfortable, or it may even make people angry, pay attention, get involved, know what's going on early. And with any luck, you can use that to head off bigger problems later on. So, take that for what it is. If you want to hear more things like that from me, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the bell icon so you're notified for every video I do that comes out. If you know somebody else who could use to hear this message, and personally, I am biased, but, personally, I think a lot of people need to hear this, share this video out to everyone you can think of. All you gotta do is click the link and send it to everyone. Some of them will not like you for it. Others may thank you for it. You never know until you actually do it, so give it a try. Then come back, leave a like, leave a comment down below. Every comment I answer, and every comment helps promote the video more. More comments means more people see it. Help people see it. And I'll see you back here next time for more of this. Till then, take care.